Hey, thanks for having me, Robert. Good to be with you.
First day today in Caddo Parish, and folks that we've talked with so far this morning say things are going well. What are you watching for today statewide?
Yeah, so we have, as of Friday, we got about 40 of our systems up and in the air. We were supposed to have about 15 more this week. Of course, the storms are going to prevent all of those from starting on time. But up in your part of the world, DeSoto is up, Claiborne, Bossier, Caddo got started today, and I think Webster's coming online in a few days. And I think all of their approaches are right. They're measured, they're safe, they're cautious, and I think that they're introducing students back to the learning environment.
You know, it's interesting because obviously all anybody is talking about as the school year begins is coronavirus. We've had some schools open for a week or more now. What are you hearing? What kind of numbers, if any, are you getting? What reports are you getting from, say, Bossier that opened a week ago?
We are watching all of that, and we have precautions in place for all of that, and we have a process to measure those things. I think that systems are doing well. You know, they're adhering to the guidelines we put in place around spacing, group sizes, face coverings, all of those different things that we believe will make a difference. But we work with the best experts in the state, from Ochsner and Louisiana Department of Health and Children's, and the practices that we have are among the best in the country.
Distance learning, as was implemented, I guess, in the spring, post-school cancellation, post-school shutdown, if you will, according to a lot of superintendents, Dr. Gorey among them, was not a big success. I know he is markedly more optimistic about that aspect of school as we start back up. What are your thoughts on that as far as distance learning and so many kids across the state being in school from home?
Well, to start, I think we have to realize that we have COVID in our communities, and that means at times we're going to have COVID in our schools. And so if this is a flight from New York to Los Angeles, we're going to be on that flight, and we have the planes up, but we may have to come down in Cincinnati and Omaha and Denver along the way. You know, we could have starts and stops, and that's okay. I think everybody admits that the spring in terms of distance learning was not that great. We weren't prepared from an infrastructure standpoint, an instructional standpoint, but I think the fall will be much better. But look, we've taught the same way for a couple thousand years rather, and that's face to face. And to turn the switch over a course of a few months is difficult. We did put out best practices in virtual instruction. That is out at LouisianaBelieves.com. We also put out a parent companion guide there at LouisianaBelieves.com for virtual instruction that tells parents, what should I be expecting from my school? What can I do to help my child? And we think those tools will go a long way.
Cade, let me ask you this. What's going to happen? What's the procedure going to be for a positive COVID test with a child, with a teacher, anybody at the school? Is it different, varies from school to school? What's the procedure?
No, and thanks, Aaron. That's a good question. I think that, it could vary because of different circumstances that might be involved, but we have procedures in place. If a child is symptomatic or test positive, we have procedures in place. If that's a teacher, we have procedures in place. If that's the spouse of a teacher, we have all of these things covered, and we think that we know how to handle all of those different issues. We're also working right now with the Department of Health to build and put in place an early warning system, which will be an additional tool for schools to use that they can basically track patterns within their own school building.
What would warrant closing an entire school down?
Well, it's going to be if that school is the focus of infection of the virus. We are going to have COVID in the schools. There are going to be kids that might be symptomatic, might be employees as well from time to time. But it would only be if that school was the focus of that infection, or if that school was unable to have enough faculty and staff in order to continue to have school with children.
Mr. Cade, how about high school sports? Not only football, But other fall sports, you've got soccer, you've got basketball that normally would have started in November. Are you having discussions with Mr. Bonine, with the LHSAA principals around the state? What is the status of sports in Louisiana from your office?
Well, we are in discussions with the LHSAA about these things. We realize, and my background realizes the importance of extra and co-curricular activities for the high school experience. But we all recognize that the classroom has to be first right now. We recognize that we have to be successful with that and having a school environment. Those discussions are ongoing, and if we can start to beat this virus back, and I think we are as a community, then we'll be able to transition into those things. We're optimistic in discussions with the medical experts, and we have access to some of the best that a vaccine is coming. And we just have to continue to take our precautions and be safe and do the things that we know to do to mitigate the spread right now.